thing, and then you convince yourself that you have, but then you think that you're a hypocrite, and it's just a cycle where I don't actually know if I'm a hypocrite or not. How can you actually determine or
Hypocrisy?
work that out?
Well, I mean, obviously, we know we're not munafiqun that are described in Surah Al-Munafiqun. I mean, you should be absolutely certain about that, because if you're not, you're in very serious trouble. Because the true munafiq is the one that doesn't believe. And that's not doubts that will occur to your mind. You know, that's the doubts that can occur to the mind. Those are just demonic or egoistic thoughts that pass. So if you have some doubt about Islam that just passes, you just ignore that. But if you're like, I don't really believe this religion. There's people, for instance, and I've met them, and it's very interesting. There are people that, I met a Jewish rabbi once who was an atheist. And I didn't understand that. And I asked him, and he said that, you know, that there are certain reformist traditions within Judaism that do not make belief in God a stipulation for being a rabbi. And I said, well, why would you want to be a rabbi? And he said, culture and just keeping our traditions alive that are very important. And there are Muslims like that. There are Muslims on the Arabian Peninsula that I know, that I've met, that don't really believe in Islam, but they go to the masjid on Friday, they pray, they fast Ramadan, you know, they wear the clothes, they'll even make Hajj, and they don't believe it. They're just doing it because it's their culture. And they just see it's, you know, it's a good thing, don't go against the culture. That's a very traditional view, that it was very important. A lot of atheists kept their atheism to themselves because they just did not want, first of all, to get the wrath of the society on them, but also because there was no reason for them. Everything was fine the way it was, but they had their personal beliefs. There are Muslims like that. There are women who wear the hijab that do not believe in the hijab. I had a lady who had the hijab on that I was working with, and I said to her, well, because we were discussing about the hijab issue, and I said, well, you do think it's wajib? She said, no. I was like, really? She said, no, I don't think it is. And I said, why do you wear it? And she said, it's really kind of just a protest, because I don't like the fact that the attitudes that people have about the hijab. There's another lady I know, an African American Muslim who does not believe in the obligation of the hijab, and she wears it. And when I asked her, she said, I come from the slaves, and my ancestors had their clothes ripped off of them by their masters. And so I'm choosing to cover myself because I'm free to do so. So there's a lot, and people are complicated, but we should always be worried about lesser nifaq. Like riya is a type of shirk, but it's not the shirk that brings the wrath of God on you. It's that the mushrik is somebody who knowingly chooses to worship idols. Knowingly. Even the mushrikun, like a lot of Hindus and people that, because Allah says, لا تجعلوا لله أندادا وأنتم تعلمون. Don't make idols beside God, and you know it. You're knowingly doing that. And that's why, you see, the Brahman, what's very interesting about the Brahman know that the idols have no meaning. Did you know that in Hinduism? Brahmins are Unitarians. They actually do not believe the idols have any meaning whatsoever, but they put them there for the common people because they think that the lower varna, they can't understand the sophistication of unity. And so it's easier for them to worship through images because people like images. It's one of the reasons why the Sufis put so much devotion on the Prophet ﷺ, because there's easier access to him, not as a shirk thing, but just as a way of contemplating divine beauty through a human manifestation of it. It's easier because Allah is so transcendent at one level that it's very difficult. And so that's why they put a lot of emphasis on contemplating the Prophet ﷺ, contemplating his qualities, his attributes, not in a shirk way, but in a way that makes it accessible. And the Christians did the same thing with Jesus, only they turned him into a God. So that's that's important, that inside your heart you believe in Allah, and you shouldn't be worried about that. But fear of nifaq, right, of doing things hypocritically, and we're all hypocrites at some level. I mean, we are. We say things sometimes that we don't really believe, right? I mean, people do that. You tell somebody that, like, how do I look? Oh, you look great. And you don't really believe that, but you don't want to be rude, and So there's a lot of things like that. And some people don't. Some people have that brutal honesty, and they're very often they don't have friends. They'll just tell you exactly what they think. If you told everybody what you think, you would probably not have very many friends, right? And so that aspect that's the nifaq that we're talking about. Like, I want this to be solely for the sake of Allah, but I know my ego's there. Those are important things to be concerned about, but don't let them disable you. You can't let them stop you, because tarkul amal li ajli riya. The ulama say that leaving an action out of fear of doing it for eye service from others, like you're doing it so that to leave that action out of fear of that is a type of riya. And so they say, even if you think it's for other than Allah, and you say, maybe I shouldn't do this because I don't think I have the right niyyah, you should do it. Does that help?